Welcome everybody to the serial talk on World's Great. In history, we find the great. That means the great conquerors. The conquerors who had caused much bloodshed are called the great. I wonder why. You know the names of some great conquerors, don't you? If you don't know, I will tell you a few. Cyrus the Great of Persia, Alexander the Great of Macedon, Greece, Ashoka the Great of the Maurya dynasty, India, Genghis Khan the Great of Mongolia, Peter the Great of Russia, and so on. There are so many greats who had caused miseries to millions of people. But Ashoka's name stands out among them. That's why the great historian A.G. Wells says about Ashoka in his world history. Amongst the tens of thousands of names of monarchs that adorn the sky of history, the name of Ashoka shines and shines almost alone like a star. Ashoka is a star. Ashoka is self-luminous. Whereas others are only planets. They reflect the light of the star or the sun. So Ashoka's position is at a greater level. He is really great. How he became the great? Hence, he was called Devanam Priya, the beloved of the gods. He was loved by the gods even. Why? He did so many things for the welfare of his subjects. He loved his people. He knew the feelings of his people. He worked for alleviating their miseries. That's the greatness of Ashoka. Then who was Ashoka? He was the grandson of the great Indian emperor of Maurya dynasty, Chandragupta Maurya. And he was the son of Bimbisara. Chandragupta Maurya, founded the Maurya dynasty. Ashoka was born at Pataliputra. He died there. You know Pataliputra? That is the present Patna, the capital of Bihar. When he became the ruler of the Maurya dynasty, he had great ambitions. He wanted to become a great world conqueror. And he set out. He waged many wars and won many wars. But there was one state that stood against his ambition. That was Kalinga. That also may be something new to you, Kalinga. Kalinga is the present Odisha. Why he wanted Odisha or Kalinga? Because Kalinga had access to the sea. So if Ashoka won over Kalinga, he could get access to the sea. He could develop his business with the East Asian countries. But the king of Kalinga was not willing to accept Ashoka as his superior. He did not want to submit to him. So there was a terrible war. Ashoka's formidable forces crushed the Kalinga forces. And Ashoka went there victoriously to see the battlefield. But it was shocking. Because 150,000 soldiers lay there dead in the battlefield. As many number of soldiers who were wounded and dying. They were crying. It was really shocking. He was shell-shocked. Moreover, many elderly women came there and confronted him. They cried, "O sire, O Lord, can you give back our sons who were mercilessly slaughtered by you?" Ashoka had no answer. Then came the widows. They wept and cried and said to him, "O Lord, can you give back our husbands who were mercilessly murdered by you?" He had no answer to that. Then the orphans came. They cried, "O Zion, can you give us back our fathers who were mercilessly murdered by you?" He had no answer to them. Of course, being the absolute monarch, he could just use his soldiers to crush them. But he was a ruler who had feelings. He knew the minds of the people. He didn't want to become a tyrant again. He rode his horse and went back to Padaliputra. He sat there in his palace. He was overcome by great sadness, unfathomable sadness. He was singing in sadness. He asked himself, why I caused such a terrible massacre? Massacre is no solution to become great. As he was sitting in his palace, he heard the chant of a Buddha bhikshu. It was like this. Buddham Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Charanam Gacchami Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham, the Buddha, the enlightened one. Gautama Buddha was Siddhartha, the prince of Kapilavastu. He was the son of King Suddhodana. He had a great palace, he had luxuries around him. He had a sweet wife, Yasodhara. He had an infant son, Rahul. But the miseries he had seen were haunting him. The deaths he had seen were haunting him. There was no escape from death. So his mind was clouded. So one night, without anybody's notice, Siddhartha left his palace. Nobody knew what happened to Siddhartha. He went on walking. And after miles and miles of walking, he reached a place, Gaya. There he saw a big banyan tree. He sat under it and started meditating. He did penance for 20 years in search of what he wanted. How he could bring peace to himself as well as to those people who were around him. After 20 years of penance, one day he was enlightened. He felt that a divine light had entered his mind. He could see everything very clearly. Till that time, he was confounded. He was confused. There was a darkness and clouds in his mind. But this divine light dispelled all the darkness, all the clouds, and he could see. He got the answer. Desires are the enemies of mankind. Give up desires and you shall have peace of mind. Open your mind's windows so that all the evils from your mind can escape and divine light and happiness can flow into your mind. So, Buddham Saranam, I take refuge in the Buddha. Dharmam Saranam, I take refuge in the work, in my duty. Sangham Saranam, in the community living, helping one another, loving one another, a community. So this is the only solution to the problems of life. Thus, Buddha began to walk, and he went on smiling and smiling, and he went on talking to the people in their own language, because those people, those poor people knew Pali, it was their language. He spoke in Pali, and they understood what he was speaking. People thronged, crowded around him to listen to him, because he was telling those people to give up all evil thoughts and start living a new life, so that they will become happy, they will become peaceful. So peace and happiness are not far away. They are very close to us. But now we are taught that our great personality trainers say that means be a Bill Gates, be the richest person in the world, have hundreds of Mercedes-Benz and BMW cars and Rolls-Royce. Can these things bring you happiness? They cannot. Otherwise, the richest person of this world would be the happiest man. It is not so. A very rich man traveling by Rolls-Royce stops at a sweet shop, and he finds so many tempting sweets in them. But he is unable to eat because he has sugar. Then he goes by and stops at Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. But he is unable to eat that because he has pressure. And he goes back home and he has $1 million bed, but he is unable to sleep. He has to swallow a handful of pills in order to get sleep. What is the use of life? Health is wealth. We must remember, health is wealth. So Ashoka realized what life was. So he decided to dedicate his life for the welfare of his people, for the welfare of his people. He wanted to make his land the Maveli land. So what he did, he got highways built across the length and breadth of his empire. His empire was a great one. Its western end was Afghanistan and beyond. And the eastern end was present-day Bangladesh and the eastern part Myanmar. And to the north lie the Himalayas, and to the south, except a small portion of the southern part of India, that is Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and a small part of Karnataka. His empire was so vast. So he got so many highways built. Not only did he build highways, he got many shade-giving, fruit-giving trees planted on the sides of these highways. He built many inns for the travelers, where there would be water and even food. He got hospitals built for not only for human beings, but also for animals. Then he got numerous wells dug, so that people got work everywhere. Not only that, the water could be used for drinking as well as for irrigation. Such a great mind he had. Why? Because he loved his people. He became a follower of Buddhism. He became a vegetarian. But he never insisted his people to give up meat eating, because he didn't want to encroach into the rights of the people of having the food of their choice, because he was a sensible ruler. When 2200 years ago, because he died in 232 BC, before Christ. So he did so many good things for his people, and his people loved him. They were allowed to enter his palace any time with their grievances, with their complaints. He was going to solve them. Nobody was to stop them, at least at the gate. So, how can just, H.G. Wells, a man of great caliber, speak otherwise of Ashoka? He said, Ashoka, the beloved of the gods. Why? Ashoka was the only emperor who threw away the sword at the zenith of his glory. At the peak of success, the only king in the world. Just imagine. Then, after Kalinga, he waged no war. Peace prevailed all over his kingdom. Thus, Ashoka became the beloved of the gods. He deserves that. Don't you think so? Okay, I'll come back again with another story soon. Bye.